Here we go. Here we are. It is time for the AEW Dynamite review on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast that you are currently consuming. It is May 25. We are just a few days removed from AEW Double or Nothing 2023. It's that time of year. This is where we're at. And we are going to review the Go Home show right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. If you're listening, watching on demand right now, thank you so much. Leave a like and a subscription. Why don't you? Those things, as per usual, they always help out the channel tremendously. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, thank you as well. And you feel free to add in a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. Jeez Louise. Those are great to get. And also, really, they're little insignificant, tiny things, but they do really help out the channel a tremendous deal. Apologies for coming out so late with this. There was a level of circumstance which occurred that I could not record the night before. I could not do this immediately after Dynamite and then get this up early, at the usual times on Thursday. And then my Thursday has just been something else. So the important thing is that we're hanging out here right now. And listen, to be completely honest, if you're listening to this on podcast, you're getting it first. I talked about this on the main podcast this week. The YouTube and whatnot takes a lot of time to process the video and etc. And but as it's in regards to the audio, then it's really, really simple. It goes out quickly. So I'm able to put it out faster via podcast. So, if you want to be, like, get it first, you want to be one of those people, go right ahead. And it got so bright all of a sudden here. If you're watching this right now, you're like, holy shit, Warren. It's like everything is glowing back. It is a very weird, like, usually I can control the amount of light that we get in here. I get it in the office area. I can usually control it really well, but here today it's like super overcast, terribly windy, and I'm doing this like late afternoon again outside of my usual times that I do this. So this, I'm at the sun is directly shining into this part of the headquarters at this time of day. So. And you see now, again, if you're watching this, you're like, oh, now everything came down because now there's a cloud that passed over. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you're like, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about, Warren. So there we go. This is a terrible audio. Let's get right to it. Let's start talking about this week's Dynamite that occurred on May 24 at the MGM Grand Garden Arena over in Las Vegas, Nevada. Yes, there are news and notesy things to talk about, but I think we'll keep them as we go along because I thought this show was good. I enjoyed it. I was entertained by this one. I think we had 2 solid episodes of Dynamite to lead us into the pay-per-view, and I think this was a very effective go-home show. We got some good action, and it was a newsworthy and very eventful show. Let's get right to it. Let's open things off with, again, the workhorse, Orange Cassidy, defeating Kyle Fletcher therefore retaining the AEW International Championship. I really liked this match. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think it might be my match of the night. I really enjoyed it. Look, we can throw things on. By the way, I find the cage match inmates to have been particularly dour in their ratings for the matches tonight. I think they were a little rough. I don't know what's going on. Like, last week they were given, they had rated Roderick Strong versus Chris Jericho so high that it turned out to be like one of the top 5 greatest matches of all time. Of course, that cooled off the day before. But I was looking at the ratings and like, man, okay, the cage match dudes and dudettes were not into this. But I like this, and Kyle was fired up in this match. Kyle Fletcher, I thought he was fantastic because it turns out that he and his partner Mark Davis are all elite. Aussie Open received the graphic off of Twitter. TK put that out there. And then, then all of a sudden, like all the news started to flow in that, oh yeah, WWE were interested in Aussie Open, right? And I'm like, of course they were. Again, I'm like, of course WWE was interested in a highly talented, extremely hot tag team like Aussie Open. I don't know why this is news. I don't know how, we've talked about this before, that I still don't know how this constitutes as news. I don't know if anyone out there still goes, really? Like, of course they should be. They should be interested in highly accomplished, dynamic, hot tag teams, or any type of talent, really. It's like when people were going, oh, well, there's interest from WWE for Jay White. Well, of course WWE should be interested. I think if it was if news came out that, you know what, WWE didn't even care about Aussie Open, then I'd be like, now this is interesting. Of course they were. Of course they were interested. Now, I think, ultimately what we can pull out of this is that, there was probably a bidding war and WWE lost. And that's the thing. It's weird because I think it's the Fightful report. I think it's the Fightful Select report that said that something to the effect, I'm paraphrasing here, that WWE was interested, but then also mentioned that there's this unofficial hiring freeze right now in WWE. I'm like, so what's the point of them being interested and being like, oh yes, let's see if we can bid on these lads, on these fellows, while there's a hiring freeze. Like, there's something not quite jiving here. There's something right now in coming from these WWE reports, and this is not a Fightful thing. I'm just saying, like, in general, when there's so and so is interested, but then you also hear about the hiring freeze, and I'm like, well, what are we even doing? What is this shit? What is happening in WWE right now that the signals, the wires are being crossed so hard here? Like, I don't know. I mean, there might not be a hiring freeze, is the point. Maybe, you could be like, hey, what it could be. So yeah, of course, they should be interested, and at the same time, a lot of New Japan fans were disappointed in this, hearing that Kyla and Mark were heading over to AEW. And we're maybe even surprised, like, well, how come they weren't already under contract? But I think a lot of folks would be surprised as to how many people working in New Japan right now are working without a contract, on a handshake and a payday deal. That you'd be surprised, and I think, and someone could absolutely correct me if I'm wrong here, but because my history of there's certain elements of my knowledge of Puro history is a little lacking, but if I'm not mistaken, this is not like unheard of when it comes to gaijin wrestlers, right? For foreigners to work New Japan or other Japanese promotions without a contract. Like, this is not necessarily unheard of. There was the whole thing with the Jay White contract, but Jay White, I feel, was a special case. I think there was something very unique to him that New Japan wanted to lock down. Maybe they were exploratory with AEW and so on and so forth, with Aussie Open, excuse me. But you know what? I look at this and I'm like, well, okay, are we breathing new life into the the comatose corpse of the. It's not comatose. It's not a corpse if you're comatose. The comatose body of the AEW tag team division. Are we starting to add a little more life into it? Because like I've talked about this a few times. AEW came out the gate promising that it would be the home for tag team wrestling, and for a substantial amount of time, it absolutely was. Then things started to drop off, and I think the tag team division for the better part of a year at this point has been very uninteresting, kind of dull, kind of boring. And I know a lot of people are very pro-Acclaimed. That's fine. But I don't think the Acclaimed is the tag team that can carry the division. So if you're bringing guys like Aussie Open back in, well, then I'm a little more excited to see them face the FTR boys again, or the Bucks again, or Lucha Bros. Like now, I have them fight SSB. Now I'm like, there's a whole bunch of really interesting, cool possibilities to reignite this division that hopefully we're not going to sleep on. Because tag team wrestling is special. It is special in its own right. It has its own dynamic, and it does bring something very different to the table than what singles competition can do. It is an entirely different type of wrestling, and when you bring in teams like the Bucks, FTR, and Aussie Open, who are tag team specialists, that's what they do, they bring a whole other element. They just create a whole other environment here in which for them to work in, and I'm excited about it. So I'm happy. I'm excited for this, and I know I saw speculation whether maybe the Mark Davis thing, because he was injured, right? In case you don't know, at the Resurgence New Japan Strong Resurgence show this past Sunday, Kyle Fletcher came to the ring, announced that Mark Davis had been injured, and then had to relinquish both sets of titles that Aussie Open was holding, the IWGP World, the IWGP Tag Team Championships, and the IWGP, and the Strong Openweight Tag Team titles. And because Mark Davis was injured, couldn't make the date to defend them at Dominion, and that's just how it goes with New Japan. If a date is announced and you can't make the defense, you get stripped. It's just, you have to relinquish. It's just as simple as that. And now a lot of people are like, oh, maybe the Mark Davis thing isn't work. And unless it's a work to protect Aussie Open, and both AEW and New Japan were in on it, okay. But, a lot of people saw this as like, why would they do, why would AEW do this? Why would they risk that? They didn't. I don't think it's a work. I think it is a question of circumstance. If you ask me, if we were to go into this without Mark Davis being injured, I would have been ready to spend, I would bet 10 Canadian rubber bucks that Aussie Open was going into Dominion, dropping the titles there, and then heading back to Dynamite, where they were going to be announced as being All Elite, as joining the roster. When you think about it that way, it makes a lot of sense. Now, United Empire has its hooks into AEW proper. I think we are continuing to set the stage for Will Ospreay as well. And of course, this match continues, building the story of Orange Cassidy, just, being beaten up. He's tired. He's broken. And he squeaks out wins. He's still doing it. And I'm still disappointed in the 21-man battle royal. I still think it's a terrible. I would not have booked this. It's disappointing. And if he loses in this match, it will be twice as 2, 3, 4 times as disappointing. I'm not going to rehash this. Look, I've talked about it. I was on a guest on the Bob Culture podcast last night, where I spoke about, how interesting it'd be for anyone else to have won to win the title. Build a dastardly heel off of this, like Roosh, like Swerve Strickland, using all of Orange's weaknesses against him to squeeze out the title, find a way to kick out of the mousetrap or something. That's all fine. It's all thing. I hope Orange retains at this point. Because I think this is all very disappointing. But look, if you want my full thoughts, you can go watch the Bob Culture podcast. You can also listen to my AEW Double or Nothing review that I did earlier this week with Jesse Collins of the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast and WrestleNomics, who joined me. We talked about, look, it's about 3 hours of stuff, and then I'm dropping segments on the YouTube channel, just clips. If you don't want to watch or listen to the whole thing, I'm clipping out things that you can just get acquainted with, or you can listen to the full thoughts on it. We go pretty much in depth here, so I'm not going to rehash all of that, and it's all right there for you if you want on your podcasts on YouTube. Anyway, good match. I really enjoyed it. Ricky Starks gets interviewed backstage by Renee Paquette. He says he's done with the Bullet Club and now he wants in the Battle Royal. But he gets jumped by Juice Robinson and then shortly thereafter by Jay White, who both seem to also be entering the Battle Royal as well. And here I thought, and look, there's still a Rampage left. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't watch I think the Rampage is live this week, right? Because it's a pay-per-view thing. I was actually hoping that we were going to get Jay White, a rematch of Jay White and Ricky Starks at the pay-per-view with a stipulation or something. Because that singles match last week, as good as it was, fell flat for me. And I was hoping that we were going to get a little more spark out of this. Maybe after all this is done, maybe after Double or Nothing is done. Of course, this is adding to the speculation that Ricky Starks is on his way out of AEW. Look, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm very disappointed in all of this. I'm disappointed in this feud, and the disappointment continues. And they're throwing this feud into a match which is already a disappointment. So disappointment is all around. Is it going to be exciting? Is it going to be great? Look, let's talk about this next week. But I can't help but, if it turns out the matches are great, well, that's a saving grace. But I can't sit here and tell you that, this has all been fantastic, because it has not. It really has not. Especially when it comes to Ricky and Jay White, who are two guys who should be being pushed as big deals. Not necessarily saying, put them in the main title pictures. That's not what I'm saying. But they should be pushed as big deals. Then we have, during the course of the evening, we will hear from the Four Pillars. Gee Willikers, shall we? Again? This week? Wow. Aren't we just spoiled? We will be hearing from them again? All four of them again. Wow. And we start off with Jungle Boy cutting the same promo that he's been cutting for weeks now, except now he added this thing where he's driving back and forth, I guess, from California to Nevada, right? I think that's the thing. Driving to Double or Nothing last year. FDR are in the ring. They hit the ring. They're on the mic. They say that they don't want to call Jeff Jarrett and Jay lethal politicers and carnies. They don't want to do that, but they've been smart, staying one step ahead of them. Dax actually questions Jarrett's relevancy, and then says that after Double or Nothing, he should call the Queen of the Mountain for his job security. No. He's not talking about Karen Jarrett. He's talking about Dixie Carter, which had me thinking. And we were all having a joke with this and a good gas with this in the Discord. Join the MrWarrenHayes Show Discord, by the way. Link is in the description. That we were having a good laugh about this at the idea of Dixie Carter showing up during this match at Double or Nothing, and we're like, Tony Khan would absolutely do this. Tony Khan, I wouldn't even be surprised if at the very least he entertained the idea. Not saying he said yes, but I am convinced that he did not instantly say, no, we are not doing this. Anyway, Mark Briscoe arrives. Cash Wheeler tells him that he's right to be mad at them, but he begs him not to trust the other guys. Mark is like, okay, so why did you guys pile drive me last week? Dax is like, look, I'm sorry, man. My brother, shake my hand. Mark slaps his hand away. Dax gets a little pissy and he says, be a man and shake my hand. Mark slaps him across the face instead. Cash keeps Dax from tearing his face off. He leaves FTR flustered. Out comes the Jarrett crew. Mark is just shoving everyone aside. It's really funny. He's going up the ramp and he's just he even pushes Karen. He's like, get the fuck out of my way. And he's shoving everyone around until he gets to Lethal, where he grabs his face and says, look, you're my boy. We're friends. But this bullshit has to stop. I agree with him. I know I saw some speculation out there. It's like, oh, Mark Briscoe's going to turn heel. It's like, why? Why would you do that? Why would you turn Mark Briscoe, who is still full of goodwill from the fans in regards to the loss of his brother that's still very present? Why would you do this so soon? I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but why would you do this so soon? That does it. I think you'd be squandering something, especially when it comes to Ring of Honor, where he's, he has a whole arc in Ring of Honor as well. It doesn't make sense to me. Then we have, let's see here. We have the Four Pillars. Oh, gee willikers. More from the Four Pillars, folks, because we're going to hear from all of the Four Pillars tonight. Hope you're excited about that. And it is Renee Paquette who is backstage with Sammy Guevara. And Sammy Guevara is telling everyone once again, that, he's cutting another babyface promo. Let's start with that. He's cutting another babyface promo. And he's talking about how people all his life tried to give him money to keep him from, achieving his dreams or whatnot. And he says, I'm not like that. I'm not about that. I'm like, brother, just a couple of weeks ago, you took MJF's money to lay down in an agreement to lay down for him. What are you even talking about? Like, it doesn't even make sense. I know you're trying to be the baby face here. You're trying to be the big man. You're trying to show I got principles, but you don't. And I'm screaming at Sammy, but this is a creative direction that's not working. Sammy Guevara is a heel. Sammy Guevara is not a babyface. We are not buying anything out of this. And I will tell you, one of the things, when we were talking about this on the AEW the Double or Nothing preview, why do I always preface it with the AEW? When we were doing the Double or Nothing preview show, Jesse and I, we were talking about how, the disconnect here, where everyone is always saying the same thing, kind of, it's just variance off of, what everyone is saying. We're hearing from the Four Pillars, and Sammy is trying to cut these babyface things. He just sounds like everyone else, when we could have probably benefited from another heel presence in this whole thing. Like, why does Sammy have to be as wholesome as Jungle Boy or as Darby? He could have been shit heel. He could have absolutely been shit heel Sammy Guevara throughout all of this, plus having MJF on top of it being a dick. I want to have an issue with it. It's very weird, and it has taken, it could have added a more interesting wrinkle in all of this Four Pillar stuff, but it hasn't. And I'm not rehashing the Four Pillar stuff. I'm not. Because it's been terrible. And you guys and gals and non-binary pals already know this because you've been listening to these reviews. You heard the preview. Or if you haven't, you'll go check those out because you'll know exactly how I feel about all of this. And we have the AEW World Trios titles on the line in a House of Black open house match. Open house rules. The House of Black successfully retained their titles against AR Fox, Blake Christian, and Metalik. And they, what was fun here, what I really enjoyed was that the dealer's choice rule, right? The one that the challenger picks, Lucha style trios match, where basically if one guy is out of the ring, another guy can immediately come in. And I was like, oh, this is super dope. And this match was fine. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good TV match without it being a squash. The House of Black were dominant, as they should be, because they're the House of Black. They're the stars. They're bigger stars, on the roster than Christian and Metalik and Fox. And I dig the new environment for the House of Black, and they added another layer to the atmosphere now. Like, I like that they darken everything. They put the spotlight on the ring, like it feels special, and now they added lighting effects in the audience. I enjoy it. It makes it feel special. Look, everything since they started doing these house rules things for the trios titles, it's been interesting. It's been giving me a reason to get excited for the House of Black. I think this is a net positive for them. I think this is something that it's sports based. It's you don't need tons of shenanigans or endless promos, and it's clear, it's simple. They're ready to defend against anyone, and they're even saying bring your own rule. And in this match here, we as opposed to when they fought the Best Friends and Bandito, we actually applied the house rules, right? Where AR Fox was trying to reach the ropes to get out of a submission, but there's no rope breaks in a House of Black, House of Rules, Rules of Black, Black House Rules, Open Rules, School Blues Clues match. There was none of that. Buddy Matthews got the win using Rhea Ripley's standing cloverleaf. Aw, aren't they cute? Cute! As Malachi and Buddy and Brody held off the other guys. I would not be surprised if these guys ended up on Collision. Just saying. Just because Brody King is a CM Punk guy, right? He's a friend. We cut backstage where we have the BCC hanging out there, and they cut an S-tier promo. And when I say they, I mean Mox. Once again, look, Danielson warms it up, sets up what they're going to be doing over the next couple of days. Hey, tonight we've got Claudio and Wheeler are going to fight for the Ring of Honor tag team titles, and then this weekend it's Anarchy in the arena, and then Mox just tears it all down, brings everything back down to the simplest, brings wrestling back down to its simplest core. I loved it. I love Jon Moxley is everything I love about pro wrestling. The spontaneity, the violence, the grit, the work. Everything I love about pro wrestling. And we even touch into the absurd with him sometimes. I don't know if you saw that extraordinary backstage promo. What a mush mouth I am today. What's going on? That extraordinary backstage promo he cut with Wheeler Yuta and Shota Umino after the Resurgence match this Sunday. It's on the New Japan socials because you absolutely have to see it. It is unhinged. It is incredible. And that's all. Mox is a complete package. I'll just leave it at that if you haven't seen the promo. It's fantastic stuff, and I highly recommend it. MJF comes to the ring to cut his 4 Pillars promo. Gosh, gee willikers. But at least, I'm exaggerating. It's MJF. And I loved the promo here. Gets the local heat, saying that this used to be Sin City, but now it feels like Virgin Vegas. I think he called it Virgin Vegas and not Would it have been funnier to have called it Los Virgins? Would it that, because then you're playing off the actual Las Vegas, Los Virgins. Would that have been funnier? Or would the, I don't think it would have, maybe wouldn't have worked as well. I don't know. I still enjoyed it regardless. Now, I think the rest of his promo here, folks, is we are setting up the return of CM Punk. I think we're setting up the return of CM Punk for MJF. Let's break it down. Let's see why. He says, unlike us disgusting pores. I don't know. I know some people really don't like it when he does that, but I think it's hilarious. I think it's so stupid. He's intelligent and fully aware, right, of how important this Sunday match is. It says a lot of people toss the word homegrown around, right? And but he says there ain't any more homegrown than him and the three other pillars. Unlike some of us poor's faves, some of our favorites, Darby, Jack Perry, and Sammy didn't have the cheat code from coming off of a national TV deal previously. They had to work their way into our hearts. They've been giving the best of themselves and the best matches in AEW. So already, I'm sensing some foundations here. I'm going like, oh, I wonder who he's talking about here. And he's sick of not having any competition here, sick of not being respected by the fans, and thinks about taking his ball and going home. Again, I'm like, all right. Now, I know a lot, and then he brings up he talks about his contract and alludes to the bidding war of 2024, right? And I know a lot of people get really fucking annoyed at this, but to his credit, this hasn't come up for a while. And I don't think it's coincidental that we're back talking about contracts, going home, the bidding war. Like, he didn't use the bidding war of 2024, but like I said, he alluded to it. We knew that's what he was talking about. I think it's interesting that he's talking about all of this back when he was having these backstage issues, and I'm doing, air quotes here, that had him off TV for a while, have him come back as the devil, just as CM Punk reclaims the world championship off of the interim stint with Jon Moxley. And then the all-out, the brawl out happens, right? The gripe bomb occurs, throwing everything into the situation in which we are now. And look, I talked about this last night on the Bob Culture podcast. I would say that this is absolutely setting up another match between MJF and CM Punk, because we know CM Punk regained the title at All Out last year, and who came back at the same time, who came at MJF, and they were supposed to fight each other at Full Gear. So, and MJF was supposed to beat CM Punk to become world champion. He beat Jon Moxley instead. But ultimately, CM Punk owes MJF a match. He owes MJF an L flat on his back, looking up at the lights. That's what CM Punk owes him right now. So I would not be surprised if this is something we immediately revisit before Phil explodes and throws it all to hell again. I know. Look, again. I know that, again, the common thought here is that Adam Cole is going to be the next challenger. And I think that makes perfect sense. I've mentioned it multiple times. Let's reiterate it real quickly. Tony Khan sees money in Adam Cole. He sees him as a top guy in the company. Everything that he's been doing with Adam Cole since he debuted, not since his return, since his debut, has proven that Tony sees big things in Adam Cole. And if you didn't think and if you didn't believe it back then, Adam Cole's return from the concussion only underscores how much of a big deal Tony believes Adam Cole can be. So we're going to move from that So absolutely, Adam Cole is AEW World Championship material. That unquestionably, that is not even, it's not even up for discussion. Now everyone is like, oh, well, he's the next challenger. And I wouldn't bet that. I would not bet that in any way, shape, or form. I think we're going to do something big with Adam Cole in the meantime. But I believe going into this summer, and I don't know if they decide to put this on Wembley or at All Out, but the fact that they're doing two huge, big-time pay-per-views 1 week apart. I know All Out hasn't been announced yet, but, speculation, and rumor is telling us, yeah, All Out is still happening. Despite all of that, we have All Out this year is going to have to draw big time. It's going to have to draw huge because the Wembley show is going to outclass it in attention, in attendance, bar none. All Out is in the shadow of Wembley this year. So what do you do to try to compensate for that? What should you do to try and get people to stay still interested in your yearly annual pay-per-view All Out that you do over Labor Day weekend? What is it you do? You put in CM Punk in the main event, put him up against MJF. The match that we were supposed to get last year. Story tells itself, really. The story tells itself. And you can be meta about it. You can, you can do all these little things for us online fans to go, oh, I can't believe they said that. Oh my God, they referenced not liking the Young Bucks or whatever, They can do all of that. But I think the big money, because this is what you want to do. You want to if you bring CM Punk back, you want to put him into the drawing power. You want to make sure CM Punk can still fucking draw for you. That's what you want to do. And you have him come back out the gate. There are two huge matches out the gate that you could do with CM Punk. One of them is MJF versus him. The other one is CMFTR versus the Elite, which, from what I understand, will not be happening. For a bunch of reasons. And maybe not the reasons. I alluded to some things on the MrWarrenHayes show this week, but it's not my place to say. And I know there's stuff that I know that have been talked about that people are fearful to report. And I don't blame them. Probably because, look, there's multiple reasons. Maybe they don't have the confirmation. They don't feel secure on it. But there's things that there's people out there that I know this information and, are holding back, are not outright reporting it because they know what kind of reaction they're going to get. So they need to be super secure. And maybe they're just not secure enough to do it. And I don't mean that they're insecure. I'm saying that maybe they don't have the backup, from their sources or whatever to really go forward and say, well, look, this is what's happening backstage in AEW right now. But as it stands, from what I understand, I don't think CMFTR versus the Elite is going to happen. Never say never. But, as of today, May 25th, 2023, there are things in motion, in play, I should say, that will prevent this match from happening. I'll just leave it at that. But so if we consider that MJF versus CM Punk is probably the biggest AEW match you have in your pocket right now, and that you want to run it, well, you run it at your big show at All Out, because like I said, Wembley is big enough as it is. And it will overshadow All Out. So you need something, you need a lighthouse here to guide the fans back from Wembley over to the other show that you'll be holding 1 week later. You'll be telling them, yes, pay us money for this pay-per-view and then pay us money for this pay-per-view 2 weeks in a row without hurting your bottom line. If I'm Tony Khan, I'm not putting CM Punk on Forbidden Door. I'm having CM Punk's return to pay-per-view for All Out. That's what I do with him. And I think that's the match we're going for. And ultimately, MJF retains, and then we can go into Full Gear where maybe MJF, on the 1 year celebration anniversary of his win, loses the title to Adam Cole. And I think that's a wonderful story to tell. But we absolutely have some unfinished business between CM Punk and MJF that needs to be settled. Anyway, we went off track here. Darby Allin comes in to cut off MJF, and he cuts a promo about stuff he's already talked about. And he talks about being the face of AEW, and I thought that was weird. See, there's been so many disconnects here with the characters, you know, with Sammy trying to be a babyface. And, you know, I think I saw this in the Discord or in one of my hunts, and I can't remember who said it, because it literally just popped into my mind. But, you know, I'm not interested, in motivational speaker Darby Allin. Who cares? That's not the character of Darby Allin. In fact, Darby Allin is, we're comfortable with him being, a brooding, mopey type. That's because that's what he is. That's what he projects. So when he comes and he says, "I want to be the face of AEW," you're like, what is this disconnect? Who cares? That's such a weird thing to say. Why would Darby Allin say that? When Darby Allin comes out and says, "I love being in AEW because it allows me to jump cars over buildings and skateboard with Tony Hawk and other places wouldn't let me do that," and I'm like, those are some very Darby Allin things. But Darby Allin then turned around saying, "I want to be the face of the company," as opposed to, "I want to beat you, Max, because I'm better than you. I want to take that title away from you." Those again are Darby things. But Darby Allin saying, "I want to be the face of the company," I don't buy it. Because then he's telling us, "Hey, next year I'm going to climb Mount Everest." You're like, everything is wibbly wobbly and doesn't work. MJF kicks him in the balls to a big pop for me. He just was listening to him and just like, "Oh, shut up, whomp." Just kicks him right in the balls, right in the no-nos. Sammy comes in to run off MJF, but MJF gets cut off by Jack Perry. So the pillars stand tall. I don't know. Wardlow and Arn Anderson have a pre-tape about the TNT title, and that's just fine. And then, let me see here. Yeah, okay, yes, that's right. Taya Valkyrie defeated Lady Frost. In Lady Frost's AEW Dynamite debut. Jade was up there at some point watching the whole thing from the ramp. It's hard to sugarcoat this. This was not good. I think Lady Frost has more to offer than what she put on here. I think she has a fantastic look. I think she has the TV look, the prime time, big lights, big show look. She's athletic. She, they put over her gymnast background, but she's evolved. She put on so much work in the indies that she's evolved from being, this is a gymnast that has that does pro wrestling. She's really transitioned into an extremely talented pro wrestler, and I think she has a lot more to give. Chalk it up to nerves. Chalk it up to being to having an off night with Taya Valkyrie, because Taya is one of these wrestlers where I like Taya, and then there's stuff that happens where I'm like, this it's not working. Sometimes she's very good, sometimes she's sloppy, and this was one of those. I don't think her heart was into it, and the match felt slow. It felt like they were going through motions. It did not feel like a match. It was kind of not good. Effort was there, but things didn't connect, and I don't know. I just couldn't get behind it. I hope we see more of Lady Frost on the main show, so that she can hopefully shake this performance off, because I like her a lot. I've always liked her. Lovely person to talk to on top of that. Let's just see what happens. Then we get, is this where we got why am I so confused in my notes today? Yeah, no, this is where we get the Tony Khan announcement, where he does the United Center announcement. It's done. Collision is starting on June 17 at the United Center in Chicago. We get CM Punk chants from the audience. So, look, this jives with everything I'd heard. And again, I talked about this on the podcast this week. On what I've heard, what's been going around in my little circles, what I've been told. And again, I'm not plugged into anyone at AEW. I fortunately talk to people who are, who do hear things and, who share, little tidbits, that I'm always prudent on what to share and what not, because I'm not a scoopster. That's not my job. It's not what I want to do. But from what I've been told, this jives. CM Punk always wanted to return, wanted to come back to wrestle. He intended to be there. This is exactly what we were talking about this week on Tuesday on the podcast when I was recording. He always intended to come back. And then he hadn't agreed to come back, but he intended to come back. It's been the path that we've been on, despite the unpleasantness last week. This is where we're at. I read this as Tony Khan getting his legal guarantees that CM Punk was returning, and that we're all good to go here, and we were able to confirm the United Center. I'm sure everything worked out here. The United Center, they started selling the tickets today. Last I checked, almost everything was sold out. Hopefully Tony Khan can get his deposit back on Daly's place. But I mean, I'm not here saying, anyone who doubted that CM Punk wouldn't be there, it was wrong and what a bunch of morons you are. Everyone had every right to doubt CM Punk coming back to AEW and doing the thing because it is CM Punk. So I'm not chastising anyone, and I'm not saying I was smarter than you. What I've been saying over the past few days, since last Wednesday, last Thursday, when the stuff at the upfronts happened and the Ace Steel revelations, from what I had been hearing, and I talked with the members at the member stream on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, become a member and join those. We were talking about it, and I was saying, look, this is what I've been hearing. CM Punk wants to return. He intends to return. TK wants him back. There are things happening right now that are complicating things, but this is where we want to go. It's not a guarantee, because wanting to come back as opposed to actually coming back are two different things. But now this is all jiving with what I've been heard, or what I've been told. So in the meantime, right up until, don't get me wrong, anything can happen with this guy. I'm absolutely not absolving everything and saying, well, now it's smooth sailing and clear skies. This is CM Punk we're talking about. We're always just, a breath away from him being someone looking at him, out of the corner of his eye, and him interpreting it as something awful and then blowing up. We're always this close. So we don't know. And I still think, as I said on the podcast, I still think that everything that has been done to bring CM Punk back to the fold, and everything that has occurred, and all the situations that are, that exist now, and the roster split with Collision, I think it is an extreme amount of effort for a guy who will clearly be diminishing returns. And I still believe that. I still believe that that's the situation here. Am I glad he's coming back? Sure. Because let's all move on and have ourselves some pro wrestling. But is the drama done? Hell no, it's Phil Brooks. We're not done. This is far from over. This chapter is closed, but the book is not done. Anyway, so like I said, the tickets at the United Center are pretty much all sold out at the time that I'm recording this. But the real test, in my opinion, is when CM Punk is officially announced. And that's the question, right? Are they going to announce him? Is he going to show up at Double or Nothing this weekend? Which is something I would do, quite honestly. I would have him show up at Double or Nothing this weekend. Because Tony needs to sell tickets for his other Collision shows, for the ones that are already announced and that are struggling, right? The Hamilton show, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, of course, which is happening on the Thursday. I can't remember the date off of my head, but the show that is happening the day after a Dynamite is like at under 600 tickets sold, distributed, excuse me. That's ridiculous. The Saddle Dome show in Calgary, under 4,000 tickets distributed. We got like under 2,000 tickets distributed for the Prudential Center show. This is the real test here. This, for me, is going to be an immediate, it will be an immediate, to use a very corporate term, key performance indicator for CM Punk as a draw. Because once it becomes clear, because it's not clear now, once it becomes clear that CM Punk is the Collision show guy, he's the Saturday night show guy, the minute that becomes a thing, hopefully tickets will start to move. Because right now people are just like, I don't blame anyone for not buying Collision tickets and for not lapping this up, because as it stands right now, you could be like, well, what the hell is Collision? Dynamite is the show. Dynamite's the flagship. That's the one we want to watch. What is this Collision thing? And you're right to think that. I don't blame anyone who's not jumping up and down and buying tickets. Hell, even the Collision show before Forbidden Door in Toronto, the night before, is still like, it's not full. There's still plenty of tickets left. So people who keep telling me, who keep saying CM Punk is a draw, CM Punk is a draw, which is in his strengths, absolutely. This is what I've maintained. CM Punk is a draw, but for how long and how hard of a draw is he? This is an immediate test out the gate. Can he fill out these shows? That's something to keep an eye on. Chicago's going to fill out. Who cares? That doesn't matter. The United Center, it's another feather in his cap. It's another feather in the cap of AEW. It'll probably be another $1 million gate. Great business, fantastic. But it's Chicago. It's CM Punk. That's a whole other 9 yards. Hamilton, Ontario. Is CM Punk a ticket mover for Hamilton, Ontario? Let's figure that one out. Then we had the contract signing. Yes, it's a contract signing. You all know at this point what I think about it. It's more than a bit. A lot of it is a bit, but I love Chris. I love Chris Jericho. I love Adam Cole. I think they're great. I think they have fantastic chemistry together. But I still think contract signings are creatively bankrupt ideas. I think it's dull as drywall. Paperwork in pro wrestling is boring. I don't care about it. Doesn't matter. And this was going down the tubes. Quite frankly, no matter how charismatic or wonderful these two guys are, this is still a fucking contract signing that is cookie cutter like everyone else's. So going down the drain right up until Adam Cole starts talking about how for this unsanctioned match at Double or Nothing, he and Roderick Strong are indeed outnumbered by the Jericho Appreciation Society. Until he decided to call a friend. And I'm like, oh, Kyle O'Reilly, let's fucking go. But no, he says a friend from Las Vegas. I'm like, wait a second. Kyle O'Reilly's from British Columbia. What are we doing here? This is Las Vegas. He lives in Las Vegas, and he contacted him to help. He says he's homicidal. And let me walk you through this for a second here. So I'm sitting there. He says he's homicidal. And in my brain, the reflex kicks in. I'm like, suicidal, genocidal, but I'm not, it's not registering. I'm like, he's homicidal. I'm like, okay. Oh, maybe homicide? I'm like, all right. And then he says suicidal. And immediately, I just pop right out of my seat. I'm like, no fucking way. No way. And then he says genocidal. It is Sabu. Sabu! Extreme wrestling legend, maniac, Sabu. With a theme song, a full Tonytron, he's got the whole 9 yards, and he comes to the ring, points to the ceiling, what do you want from me? And of course, this happens when I am no longer on Twitter, when one of my favorite bits on Twitter was to tweet out every single time the lights go out for anyone on any wrestling show, was to tweet out Sabu with a question mark. And then when the lights came back on and was inevitably not Sabu, because I would never thought that was going to happen, when the lights come back on, I would quote tweet that and say, not Sabu. And that was my bit on Twitter forever. Maybe not forever, but for a long fucking time. And now, of course, I'm off Twitter. I dumped that piece of shit app. I'm gone from it. And now they do this. My beloved Kristen, who is still on Twitter, she keeps me abreast and she says, you have a whole bunch of people who are just tweeting at you and going at, and it's like, fantastic. I had people DMing me that, like, the Discord blew up, first and foremost. Everyone was losing their mind. And then they were all patting me on the back. I was getting DMs on Discord. I was getting DMs on Instagram. People reaching out to me right and left. Made me happy nonetheless. The people were celebrating the end of the bit. Can't do the bit anymore, and we're done. That being said, Tony Khan, why did you not turn out the lights and turn them back on again? For Sabu! What the fuck is this? The lights go off, they come back on, he's in the middle of the ring, he's pointing at the sky. What? It is my only criticism. It seemed like, look, I can only assume there was logistical things. Look, and Sabu's overall health, like this man is not limber and nimble anymore. Y'all think Sting, is like a little broken down or whatnot. You think Hiroshi Tanahashi's a little broken down and whatnot. This fucking guy, broken up and down. He broke his neck twice. I mean, look, the bit is done. Sabu shows up. He's going to be part of an AEW show. This is an absolute Tony Khan move to bring him in to do something. Now, what is he going to do? This is the thing that's been racking my brain. What is he get? This guy's health, he is not healthy. He looked good, like good suit, looked like $1 million, still has that scowl and, just looks like, he looks like a dirt bag, just everything that you're like, yeah, this is indeed Sabu, right? But what is he going to do? Like, he threw some chairs around. He'll probably do that. They'll probably, and I was thinking he's going to jump off of something, isn't he? But he can't. Or can he? Like, that's the point. I'm here saying he can't jump off of something, or maybe he can, especially if you got all the Jericho Appreciation Society there to catch him. He's probably going to do, an Arabian face crusher, right? But I have no idea how he's going to come into play here. But what a fucking moment. And I do not want this to come across as an endorsement for all the batshit insane things this man has said over his career and on social media. Please don't. I am absolutely separating the event, the icon of this man versus, how insane he is, because it's insanity at this point. Just to make sure we're clear on this. Can't endorse that, but the bit was still there. Sabu is going to be in this match. I loved this. It's the kind of thing that makes me miss hanging out on Twitter, but then everyone in the Discord, they all share these things. The memes where everyone is doing Bobby Fish erasure from the Undisputed Era and just photoshopping Sabu in place of Bobby Fish is fantastic. Fantastic. Crying with laughter. That was a fun moment. Big time moment. And what did Tony Schiavone said? Because it's Sabu, I feel like I need to run out of the building, right? And Taz said, oh, me too. They have history there. That was fantastic. Just great stuff. This is great stuff all along. And that led into the match between Roderick Strong and Daniel Garcia, a match which I was excited for and which I felt under-delivered. I didn't think this was that good. And I don't think it's because I was really overwhelmed with the Sabu news, with the surprise of him showing up. I thought this match was very average, quite honestly, in a match where I was expecting both of these guys to go kind of hard. I don't know. Those are my notes. We get a hype reel. Wait, I forgot to talk about Hangman Adam Page, didn't I? Yeah, Hangman Adam Page, just after the Tony Khan announcement, was interviewed by Alex Marvez, where he basically says, that he's not sure that he and Kenny are still friends. He says he and the Jacksons are, but yeah, there's something more than that. That's family. Family sticks together, and they took so much. The Blackpool Combat Club took so much from the Elite. They almost took my eye, almost took Matt's arm, Nick's shoulder. They took Don Callis away from Kenny. So they're gonna pay. They're gonna pay this week. I am so excited for that match. But yeah, we get a hype reel after the Roderick Strong Dan Garcia match for Willow Nightingale winning the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. She is the inaugural one, in case you don't know, in case you haven't been following. She won the title at the New Japan Strong Resurgence show this weekend, where she defeated Mercedes Moné, where Mercedes got injured in the match, and they clearly called an audible. Dave Meltzer, Dan Meltzer, his, cousin that no one really reads, but Dave Meltzer confirmed that they called the audible in the ring, that Mercedes was supposed to win, but called the audible when she got injured and couldn't continue. So Willow Nightingale won the title, and she got praise on the show on Dynamite. So does that mean we're setting something up for Forbidden Door at the same time? Let's fucking go. There's no reason not to, right? Let's go. And good for Willow. I keep saying this, because everything is sort of, it bums everyone out that someone got injured in the match and the match couldn't live up to its full potential, right? Of course. It can only be bummed out for so long. This is fantastic for Willow Nightingale, and this is a career-making moment for her. So good for her. Good for her. And then we get to the main event where the Lucha Brothers successfully retain their Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship against the Blackpool Combat Club team of Claudio, Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta. I thought this was a really fun match to close out the show. Again, another Dynamite that starts off with a really fun match, ends with a really fun match. Spectacular stuff from the Lucha Brothers. I really am marble-mouthed today. I don't know what's going on. I'm like Alex Kozlov. Just great stuff all around. And the Bucks keep the... They were hiding under the ring, and they kept the rest... They kept Claudio from saving Wheeler Yuta from eating the fear factor. So they snuck out and they super kicked and held back Claudio. So the Lucha Bros were able to hit their finisher for the win. And the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club come out. The Bucks take a powder. Mox gets on the mic to cut another final promo. And we are done. And that is this week's Dynamite, the go-home show. And look, interesting, isn't it? Isn't it interesting that the go-home show before the pay-per-view, the go-home Dynamite, closes with BCC versus Elite and not the four-way? And this should tell you, as it tells me, and I know it already tells you because y'all are the A+ audience listening to this D-list podcaster right here. You all know that this is a testament of how internally they feel what is going to draw at this pay-per-view this weekend. What is going to drive some pay-per-view sales? It's this feud right here. It's not the four pillars. I think internally they're sort of looking at all this and going, this wasn't great, was it? This didn't quite turn out like it should, right? It really didn't. Because this is what they turn out. This has been the hottest angle in the entire company for weeks, months. This has been it. They're not going to, of course they're going to end it with this. This is what they're going to tease you with. This is what they've been ending the show with over the past 3 weeks. Not the world title stuff. And you can find it as weird as you want. You can be like, isn't it strange that it's not ending with, it should finish. They should be finishing the show with the main event angle. But this is not the main event angle. This is not the one that is hot. This is not the one that people want. This, the BCC Elite Anarchy in the Arena match, is the one everyone is universally looking forward to. And you have much more mixed reactions when it comes to the Fatal 4-Way. Don't call it a Fatal 4-Way. The 4-Way match. The 4 pillars 4-way final match. Final 4-way pillars of the match. Much more mixed reactions. You will never be able to fault AEW from throwing their young guys into a main event into the deep end here. And for all intents and purposes, and I'm in agreement with most of the commentary that says, yeah, the match will probably end up being great, despite all my reservations, despite all of everything that bothers me in the composition of a pro wrestling match, which includes a world championship match being challenged by, being fought by 4 guys. I can't stand that. And despite all this, yeah, the match is going to be great. You know why it's probably going to be great? Because all the guys in that match hear us all complaining online, and that's how it goes. So they hear us complaining, and they're gonna go, they're gonna psych themselves up and be like, hey, let's fucking go. It's time. We're gonna tear the house down. They probably will. I just wish the build was better. I wish the circumstances were better. Anyway, we're gonna wrap the show up on this one. Thank you all for being here. If you haven't already, leave a like on the video. Leave a 5-star review or a rating. Those things always help out. And yeah, There we go. That's what we're doing now. Moving on. So I will be back. Hope you enjoy Double or Nothing, right? I will be back next Tuesday for the and we're gonna review Double or Nothing in excruciating detail. You can trust on that. It's gonna be a great podcast next week. But in the meantime, I hope you do enjoy Double or Nothing this weekend. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.